Greetings, beloved ones, and welcome to Satsang. Thank you for sharing this time with me and with each other. Today, after I talk a bit, we're going to have the opportunity to break into small groups again, which I think worked well last time. So we'll do that again today. We mark the passing of time in each day that we live, and really in each moment that we live. And so we have to get used to letting go of what has been. In a way, and you've probably heard me say this before, the idea of death or letting something die is part of life. And we tend in our culture to think of death as something that happens at the end of life. But in terms of the reality, the change that takes place within us and that wants to take place within us involves a perpetual letting go of what has been and a continual trust in the next moment that hasn't revealed itself yet. So isn't that what we anticipate at the end of life of our physical body? That we let go of the familiar, the physical construct of our life, and we go into something with greater or lesser degrees of ease that's unknown. So we can think, when we are willing to, that all of life is meant to be this way. All of life is a passage, but the passage isn't just a forward passage. It's a forward passage that's aided by the letting go of what was and that is no longer. This is really a moment by moment event to let go of what has been. And what makes it difficult is that very often our sense of identity is attached to something that has been, and we feel unsafe or insecure about letting go of it because it feels like, well, that is who I am. So there needs to be a willingness to loosen our hold on that is who I am and the attachment of identity to a particular relationship or place or state of health or location or way of thinking or belief. It covers the total spectrum of what we're holding on to that is past. And in order to move into the future, we have to let something die. Otherwise, we compromise our openness, and we're half here, moving into the future, and half we're looking backwards, holding on to the past. There are varying degrees of comfort that each of us may have in this letting go process. There are varying degrees of comfort of knowing that we are safely held in the present and in relationship to an unknown future. But if you are not comfortable, then that needs to be the focus of your spiritual, let's say, focus, your spiritual awareness, your spiritual work, your spiritual endeavor, to see what your relationship is with the unknown and to see what it is exactly that you're holding on to when you're looking backwards. There is a premise that you can hold with me, which I believe is true of the universe in general, that which is based in love travels with you, not only into the future of this life, but into the future of all lives. That which is founded in love is dimensionless and crosses all dimensions. So you don't have to hold on tight to it because it's in your heart. It's going to go with you. It is going with you. But the insecurity of I am that, and I need to identify myself as that, that's not the same thing as love. That's fear of dissolution. That's fear of death, really. The fear of not being in anybody because you don't know what the next step is. That's not love, that's fear. So there is security in knowing that love travels with you past relationships, past loves of something you may have enjoyed doing and now no longer are able to do, places. We have nostalgia for all kinds of things, and nostalgia in itself is not a bad thing. Nostalgia is like an appreciation of something beautiful that has been, but nostalgia and attachment are two different things. We can revel and enjoy and feel good about anything that has brought beauty and love into our life. We don't have to say it wasn't there. We can feel nourished by it, but that's not the same thing as being attached to it. So I want to put this to you today about passages. How much are you willing to die to the past in the sense of attachment of your identity, and to let that be something that leads you to greater safety, not only throughout life, but towards the end of life, where you are at that place of stepping into the unknown in trust, the same moment by moment progression. I let go of the past. I no longer am that. And I step moment by moment into the unknown until I reach the end of this embodiment. And then I step into another unknown. Where is your trust and where is your fear about letting go and dying to the past? You know, it's been said many times by many people that we don't pay enough attention to the incorporation of death into life in our culture. In our Western culture, we are afraid of aging, we're afraid of the loss of function, and we're afraid of dying. So we don't talk about it until it's upon us, and then we find it inescapable, whether it's the loss of function or death itself as an obvious next step. But there are many other cultures, and you know this, where that's not the case, where dying and the anticipation of death is brought into the sacredness of life as an understanding of relationship. It's not something that's parked in a corner that you get to when you have to face it. That is not what it is. It's something that lives with you as part of the ever-presentness of passages. Some cultures do this because they have a very keen sense of history and of the relationship to that which has gone before, to ancestors. Not all, but some cultures do this. And some cultures do this simply because it's a relationship to time itself. What could be more true than that which is gone, and that which is in the future hasn't arrived yet, and we are in between the past that is gone and the future of not knowing. But we're afraid, and so we don't know how to die to the past, how to let it go without feeling we're sacrificing our identity. That's such a limiting fear, beloved ones, to live in fear that if you don't hold on to this, or this, then you won't be yourself. Can you see how that would limit your life? Because it doesn't allow you to open fully to what could come, because that space of openness is filled by what you're holding on to. Some of you may already feel very secure in the idea of physically dying because you anticipate a life that continues after physical death. And that's good because it is the truth of creation that life is continuous and that nothing dies. So that's good. But those very same people who are not afraid of physical death may be afraid to let go of the past, which involves a different version of the same thing. One letting go of the unknown into the unknown, I should say, and the other letting go also into the unknown of not holding on to that particular aspect of identity. So the idea that you have accomplished or are aware of feeling safe with physical death and that takes care of everything, no, it doesn't, because the ego self is still attached to its own sense of identity, and it will hold on to many things because of fear that is undisclosed to your consciousness. It will hold on to many things that you don't know about. It will hold on to feelings. It will hold on to people. It will hold on to places. It will hold on to, as I said, health attributes. It will hold on to the image of youthfulness, and not let go. What is it that you're holding on to? See that in yourself. See what you're holding on to, because it feels scary to let it go and to say, I stand here in the unknown naked, not knowing what is coming next, but trusting that I will be led into the next step into the unknown. Well, that's an important part, beloved ones, because you walk forward into the unknown with greater safety, knowing that you're being led. Less safety when you think everything is a mist and it's obscure and you don't know how you'll find your way, and it all seems just like an endless maze or an endless obscurity that is frightening. But that's a belief that you're alone with the unknown and that the unknown is just space. That's a very different version of reality than thinking that you're being led. So this is the picture I'm inviting you to hold. You let go of the past and let it die. Not your love. Your love stays. You don't have to do anything about it. You don't have to think about it. It comes to you because it's already found a place in your heart. But the past is gone. It's a thought. It's no longer here. Whatever it is. And you walk towards the unknown with the feeling that something nameless is guiding you and will guide you forward. That doesn't mean you can know what the next step is right away. You can't. If you did know, it wouldn't be unknown. We'd call it something else. So you die to the past, you turn towards the future, you walk into the unknown like a child with your hands open, and you wait to be shown what is the next step. So now I've identified another part. There's dying to the past. There's the belief in or conviction, depending on who you are, of being led. And then there's waiting. You can't know immediately what you want to know. And wanting to know is an attribute of the ego self that defines safety in terms of actual concrete knowledge. That's the ego self that does that. So, are you willing to let that go? To have a period of waiting to be shown where to go in the unknown? Often that's very difficult because the ego self doesn't want to let go either. It wants to come with you into the future. It's a spiritual I don't know what to call it, a spiritual inevitability, I think is close to what I would say, that which has been based on the security operation of the ego self doesn't want to give up so easily. It wants to come with you and to make sure everything's okay by not submitting entirely to the unknown, but having qualifications like, I want to know if I'm going to be healthy again. I want to know if I'm going to meet another person to love. I want to know if this job that I have agreed or committed myself to is going to work out. That ego self wants to have a conditional unknown. So it says, okay, this part I'll be with the unknown, but this part, tell me what the outcome's going to be. Well, that's one of the challenges of trust, is to say, I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that, and that's getting in my way, to have a conditional sense of trust. But it's a labor. It's a spiritual labor to develop that sense of trust that allows you to fully embrace the unknown and not to be holding on to something, an anchor point. At least I know this. At least I know this. So there are three parts to this dying to the past that I'm talking about. And you can see where you are with each of them. The first part is the willingness to let go of part of your identity that has been and that you're holding on to, even though the reality is no longer there. The willingness to let go. The second part is the confidence or conviction that you are being led, even if you don't know how or by whom or by what means that you are being led. And the third part is the capacity to wait in the unknown. These are levels of potentiality that each human being faces, because each human being is faced with loss along the way, because people live and people die. That's a part of the cycle of life. There's no human being that doesn't lose something along the way, whether it's parents or children or jobs or health or money. Something gets lost. So the letting go process is inevitable. And the question is, how do we deal with it? How do we deal with it? Are we willing to die to the past and to embrace the future in this way of letting go, being led, and waiting? Are we willing to do that? You have the answer for yourself, beloved ones. Only you have the answer. Only you can see what you have been successfully able to let go of and what you are still holding on to because it once was your identity and now it's not there, but you're still holding on to it. And again, I want to reassure you that love is not something you have to hold on to with fierceness. Love travels with you. It's in your heart. It stays with you. Whatever you've loved goes with you across all dimensions of time and space. When you sit in your private space, in your own home, and you sit in front of your altar at whatever time you designate, this is something that you can meditate on because it's a very important part of life. To sit in front of your altar and breathe and say, I ask to be shown how to let go more. I ask to be shown how to die to the past more. I ask to be shown how to wait and feel safe. Whatever portion of that feels like your personal challenge, becomes a prayer that you take into the meditation. And that will help you see with greater awareness what you're holding on to and why you're holding on to it. And then you have to see what you're willing to do about that, because it's up to you. Whether you let go of anything, it's always up to you. We are moving into a time of safety. It doesn't look that way on the earth right now, because the safety is not outer, it's inner. The inner safety comes from knowing the reality of the divine. And in that place of safety, which is arriving, the idea of death is not frightening, not the idea of physical death, and not the idea of letting go of the past. Neither one is frightening, because identity is seated inside you, in your body, in your energy body, in your deeper being. It's seated inside you as a permanent establishment. So there's nothing you need to hold on to, because that's not related to your safety. So I wish that for you, beloved ones, and for all beings, that you may freely walk upon the earth in safety and trust, and know that you are safely held in the unknown, which is another word for saying the arms of spirit or the arms of God. May that be your consciousness and the consciousness of all beings. Om Namo Bhagavate, Om Namo Namaha. I bow to the Supreme Being that lives within all. Namaskar.